All right, back here on CBS Sports HQ, where we get set to enter Week 12 of the NFL season. 5 teams in the NFL have 2 wins on the season, all with a chance at the #1 overall pick. And our own Ryan Wilson's latest NFL mock draft has Colorado's 2-way star Travis Hunter as the first player to be taken. But who will be the team that claims him? Well, here's a look at those 5 teams with 2 wins on the season. You've got the Browns, Titans, Raiders, Giants, and Jaguars all in the mix to have a chance at claiming the first overall pick in the NFL draft at Lambeau Field later this April. For more on this, let's go ahead and welcome in our own Ryan Wilson to the program. Ryan, it is so great to see you. So what we're going to do here is go through all those teams that are in the mix for the #1 overall pick, take a look at their remaining schedule and what chances they actually have, and also look at their needs. Let's begin here with the Jaguars, and it's a team that comes to mind that needs help on both sides of the ball and could use a guy like Travis Hunter.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Jordan. And the thing is, you see 5 teams with 2 wins, and that feels like a lot. Now, look back the last 2 years. Last year, through 11 weeks, only 3 teams had 2 or fewer wins. The year before that, 2022, only 1 team had 2 or fewer wins. So it does feel like a lot of sub-mediocrity, if you will. But in terms of the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are quite accustomed to picking first overall, Travis Hunter feels like a layup to me, but you talk to Pete, Prisco, and he thinks they're more inclined to take a big body, whether it's an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman. But I think the other issue to consider, Jordan, is this. The Jaguars could trade down. If there's a team that really loves one of these quarterbacks or maybe even wants to trade up for a Travis Hunter, they could move down 3 or 4 or 5 spots, get an offensive lineman or get a defensive lineman, and continue to build around a team that has gone from really good to really, really bad really quickly. You see what's going on here in the graphic in terms of the remaining schedule. I don't know if a win jumps out at me, given the way that the Jaguars are playing there without Trevor Lawrence. But I think Travis Hunter is the easy pick. The Jaguars don't like to do things the easy way sometimes, so we'll see how it unfolds. But I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement in terms of them coming off this first overall pick and they go on a run where they win 4 or 5 games to end this thing.
All right, well, a team that actually has 2 games remaining that we just saw on that schedule against the Jags is the Titans. But what really are their chances at that #1 overall pick? If you look at their remaining schedule, what games on the schedule really pop up to you that are going to be pivotal in deciding that?
Right. They're not as in bad a way as the Jaguars here. And when we look at the schedule, I'll give you some ideas of who they could potentially make a run at. The Jaguars make the most sense, of course. Texans are not winning that game. The Commanders are playing extremely well. The Bengals offensively are doing what they're supposed to be doing. I think the Jaguars and maybe the Colts, but we've seen Anthony Richardson flash last week, and that's the hope in terms of the Anthony Richardson that they're getting in Indianapolis going forward. He has been up and down this season. It was obviously benched for Joe Flacco, so we'll see how that plays out. But the Titans have their own issues at quarterback with Will Levis, who has also been inconsistent, battled injuries early this year as well. I don't know if they'll come off if they'll move on from Will Levis. I think Will Levis is probably in their plans going forward, but they need help along the offensive line, and they spent the last 2 first-round picks on offensive linemen on that right side. They've been pretty good there. They need help at wide receiver. There are going to be some guys at the top, like a Tedro McMillan out of Arizona or Luther Burden out of Missouri who makes sense, or even a Travis Hunter who could kill 2 birds with 1 stone and play cornerback as well. But I think outside of the Jaguars matchups, it'll be tough to find another win. That said, I don't think they're going to out-Jaguars themselves to the #1 overall pick as we sit here.
Well, the Browns, the Titans, excuse me, 2-8, and also the Browns. And if you kind of look at their remaining schedule, I'm not sure how many more wins they're going to stack up in that win column because 5 of their next 7 games are against current playoff teams, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh at the Cleveland Browns, but they're Cleveland Browns ended up pretty good. Their quarterback situation is a hot mess, and Deshaun Watson is injured again, and who knows what his future is, even though they owe him tens of millions of dollars. Kevin Stefanski's on the hot seat. They play the Steelers on Thursday night. The Broncos are one of the most surprising teams because of their quarterback play in Bo Nix and what Sean Payton has done there. So, yeah, this team, all right, Jacksonville, hold my beer, as the saying goes, Jordan, because the Cleveland Browns would like a word. Good luck finding a win.
Yeah.
Look, man, you need help everywhere. When you're truly terrible, you can draft someone and make your team better, but quarterback has to be the top of the list. Tackle is a huge need. Wide receiver is a huge need. Nick Chubb's contract is up as well, so if you told me they took Ashton Genty, I would understand that as well. But this team might be the favorite as we sit here, Jordan, to get that first overall pick looking at that schedule.
All right, last two teams here that are in the mix for the #1 overall pick. That is the Giants and the Raiders. You know, both of these teams, if you look at their remaining schedule, have 2 games that are really going to be key. Let's start with the Giants here.
Yeah, and our colleague Mike Renner made this point the other day, and it's pretty telling when you bench your quarterback in Daniel Jones and you turn to Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets, and he makes your team better offensively. A year ago, that's what happened. Tommy DeVito got this team a few extra wins and knocked them out of the race for one of these top-flight quarterbacks. And remember, in the offseason, they were having conversations about trading up for Jaden Daniels. Hopefully, Tommy DeVito isn't as good as he was a year ago and allows them to lose a few more games, because a quarterback is also a dire need. And this is a pretty tough schedule. The Buccaneers, we know that they're pretty good when they're locked in and healthy. The Cowboys have certainly struggled. The Saints are on a hot streak now after moving on from their head coach. The Ravens are a Super Bowl contender. And those final 2 teams there should give the Giants plenty in terms of a handful of trying to win those games. So while the Cleveland Browns are #1 overall in terms of the worst team schedule-wise, I think the Giants and the Jaguars are going to battle out here for the 2nd and 3rd pick, which, again, might be good enough, Jordan, for the Giants to get one of those quarterbacks that they like, because Daniel Jones, his time is done in New York. Tommy DeVito and Drew Lock are in the final year of their deals, so it could be a whole new quarterback room when the 2025 season gets here.
Yeah, and lastly, with the Raiders, their last 2 key matchups come in Week 16 and Week 17. Raiders, a team that have a ton of needs. Ryan, break it all down for us.
Right, and they've had turnover at the offensive coordinator position. Luke Getsy was fired after 9 weeks. We'll see what Antonio Pierce's future is. We know Tom Brady is an owner now, and he and Mark Davis are going to have some conversations about what the future of this team looks like. But you talk about those last 2 games there, Saints and Chargers will be certainly tough. And the Broncos this week is going to be tough, followed by division rival Kansas City. So this is tough sledding, no doubt about it, whether the quarterback is Gardner Minshew or someone else. But one of the things to keep in mind, Jordan, depending on where this ends up, number 1, Tom Telesco, the GM, does not like to trade up or down. So if they end up 4th or 5th overall and they miss out on the quarterbacks, they're going to miss out on the quarterbacks. But the other thing to keep in mind, that probably the most popular free agent quarterback is going to be Justin Fields. And if you're the Raiders and you're Tom Brady, would you rather have Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, or would you rather have Justin Fields and pair him with a really good offensive coordinator? So that's some of the calculus draft-wise that the Raiders are going to have to do. Again, tough schedule, but if you're asking me to rank worst to first, I think it's going to be the Browns, then the Jags and the Giants, and then maybe the Raiders after that, and the Titans pull up the rear there in terms of being the least worst team as we sit here through 11 weeks.
All right, we'll see how it all plays out. We'll see which path the Raiders decide to go. Ryan Wilson joining us here, breaking down the upcoming NFL draft. You could hear more draft talk from Ryan on with the First Pick podcast. You know the drill. Scan that QR code on your screen and watch and listen wherever you get your podcasts.